Iron Supporting Food Banks collects food and cash donations for needy families in WHUMUN Borough and beyond. Please consider making a donation via their Just Giving page, the link for which you will find in the description section of this stream. Come on, you Irons!
West Ham are massive, everywhere we go. West Ham are massive, everywhere we go. Everywhere we go. West Ham are massive, everywhere we go. West Ham are massive, everywhere we go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the West Ham Massive. Thanks for joining us, and please don't forget to like, comment on, and share this stream to your social media platforms. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you are new around here. Last I looked, we were on 1,1299 subs. We just need one to break 1,300. Please don't forget to hit the bell icon for alerts on new content. All these things that you can do are free of charge to you. They take a couple of seconds of your time and they help to grow the channel. You never know, we might break the 1,300 before we hit end stream. And we thank you very much indeed for your support. We are here to pick over the bones of West Ham United 2, Manchester United 1 that took place yesterday at the London Stadium. Joining me is my younger brother, Ben. How are you, sir?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, a lot better than I was this time last week after a really good win.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into it. I'll add my little presentation up there for people to have a little bit of a look at and get their teeth into some of the facts and figures about the match yesterday, and also have a look at the banner at the bottom, which will change intermittently. There's the officials to get going. So, Ben, let's start at the very beginning. So, at an hour and 15 minutes before the match kicked off, the teams were announced. What were your initial thoughts at the starting 11?
Well, before we get into that, Rob, I just want to, if anyone needs any sunglasses, I appreciate my background is rather bright. This is my mad mother's painting, which is a little bit reminiscent of our mad mother, the Mad Paddy. It's a little bit reminiscent of the Chinese restaurant in Only Fools and Horses. Obviously, that was yellow or gold, as Delboy would say. This is orange, or you could say that's gold as well. Yeah. So, but
I did it beforehand, didn't I, Ben? I got to do it. Don't forget your kitchen paint. Oh, you'll be in big trouble, John.
Well, but it's interesting you saying that, Rob. You're saying an hour and 50. It seems like the teams are coming out earlier now.
Yeah, it used to be an hour before, and it's now an hour and 15.
Nice. So sorry, mate. I digress ever so slightly, but if I'm honest, I was really quite disappointed with the starting 11 that Lopetegui picked yesterday. Obviously, in the preview, we both done our teams, and we both made quite a few changes because, quite frankly, there's a few players that just aren't doing it. But unfortunately, I felt that those players were still in the team. For me, I think you've mentioned it, Rob, but I don't think Todibo, I was surprised that Todibo wasn't in there. I thought maybe Mavropanos might come in for someone else or as a slight change of formation. But for me, it smacked as a bit of a play it safe starting 11 that, just hadn't been working as far as I'm concerned. I was very disappointed that Souček had been dropped because, quite frankly, I think you know what you get. He's chipped in with goals this season. So I thought he was very unlucky not to start. Somerville should definitely have started. And that's even before a ball was kicked. That's not even, what he ended up doing. But he was crying out for Somerville to start the game. So it just felt to me it was a bit of a damp squib of a starting 11 for me.
What were your thoughts on the Manchester United 11? Did you was there anyone there that concerned you, or was it pretty much of a muchness as far as you were concerned?
I mean, look, they've got some dangerous players that on their day. I think I pinpointed Garnacho as someone that I thought was a threat. Sharky. That I think he is a threat, and he's a talented player. Look, on their day, there's no doubt, like the likes of Bruno Fernandes, Rashford. I mean, on their day, they can ping one in the top corner from 30 yards, but their days are few and far between. And I mean, we'll come on to it. I think they had a lot of chances in the first half and couldn't make it count.
Yeah, talk me about your thoughts on the first half performance, Ben, and then I'll tell you mine.
I mean, I'll probably lean on you a little bit more, Rob, because you was there. But from what I can gather, we was very lucky to go in at half time 0-0.
Yeah, we got well and truly rinsed in that first half. There's no denying that. I mean, we could have quite conceivably gone in 4-0 down. I mean, they hit the woodwork
Really?
twice. Yeah, they hit the woodwork twice. There was that glaring miss from Diogo Dalot that Sharky just there as referenced, which was it was more difficult to miss it than it was to score, and he did precisely that.
But was he onside? Would it have counted?
Oh mate, yeah, that I'm pretty sure that would have counted if he'd got it on target, which a professional footballer, I don't care that he's a right back. A professional footballer should get in that situation, should have buried it, and he didn't. But they hit the woodwork twice. Fabianski made a great save towards the end of the first half.
I see that.
They had opportunities to go in at least a goal up, and I would argue if on another day in a parallel universe we would have gone in 4-0 down, and then you're looking at a completely different situation for Erik ten Hag, who obviously was jettisoned by the hierarchy at Old Trafford today. Oh well, never mind. These things happen.
No. I mean, we can come on to that later, but no surprise there. I think he's been a dead man walking for quite a long time.
Yeah, but the first half was we were dominant, and it was one of those where we had numerous times. It wasn't just here and there. It was quite an awful lot that we was playing very lazy passes that were easily intercepted. We was getting dispossessed with ease. There was a couple of times where we would play a ball and the ball would go just straight out of play. Lazy passing, just no intensity. And as I say, it was really concerning. And I thought to myself at halftime, when the halftime whistle went, I was like, wow, it's got to change something, because we cannot. We've rode our luck in 45 minutes. We cannot do it in the second 45 minutes. It's just impossible that we can relinquish this much of the ball, this much sort of like play and all the rest of it, and possibly think that at the end of the half, at the end of the match, we're gonna have at least parity. There's just absolutely no chance. They'll take a chance at some point. So something had to change, and fortunately, it did at halftime. But here's the thing, Ben, and I'd like your opinion on this as well, because there's two ways you can look at the substitutions. Because on the one hand, you could look and you could go, okay, so the manager's recognized that there's a problem. Maybe he's made a selection problem, or whatever the reason is. He's made the triple substitution. He withdrew Soler. He withdrew Paqueta. He withdrew Mavropanos. Now, I'm led to believe that Todibo had some sort of fitness issue. I don't know to what extent. It obviously wasn't enough that it meant he couldn't be on the bench. He played the second 45. Fine, not a problem. Souček, as you say, he came on, and obviously Crysencio Somerville, who had a great impact. I think Souček did as well, if I'm being completely honest. I know he's someone that has his detractors, but I do think he came on, and he will never ever be Kevin De Bruyne. He will never be David Silva. He will never be Andres Iniesta, players like that can spray the ball around. But do you know what? Actually, when you actually looked at the passing stats, now bear in mind they both played a half each. If you looked at his passing stats side by side with Lucas Paqueta, he was actually superior in passing. And this is a side of his game that everybody says that he's crap at, and he has his moments where he is. I'll hold my hands up. Yesterday, and he has it a couple of times this season, where actually his passing game is maybe not as bad as people think it is.
Well, do you know what, Rob? I think you're right. I think you've mentioned it a couple of times, and it's not before this season, his passing hadn't been great. You felt it was fairly limited, but he's actually surprising people this season. He's got a little bit more in his locker. Rob, for me, it's interesting. I said this the other week. Paqueta on his day, I think is probably our most talented player. Yeah.
Mhm.
But his days are too few and far between. And
Yes.
and the fact is, Rob, I feel like his languid, lazy attitude rubs off on the rest of the team.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? And I feel like his little passes that are going out, it feels like there's no real intensity there, and he's just having a little kick about down the Copacabana. At least
Mm.
when and it was obvious, Rob, that neither of us had him in the starting 11.
Nope.
In our predicted teams, both of us had Souček in there. And what I would like to think is that, look, you've got to give a bit of credit to Lopetegui. That was an interesting stat that we've never made 3 subs at half time
No.
in Premier League history. Yeah, so
No.
you can say fair play to Lopetegui, which I will. However, I was still just annoyed that he picked the team that he did.
Yeah.
But at least he had the balls to even, let's be honest, Moyes wouldn't have done that. Moyes would have waited. So at
Mm.
least he see what, it's a big call to hold off Paqueta. Do you know what I mean? So he's hauled off Paqueta, he's hauled off Soler, he's made the changes, and then obviously it made a big difference. And we move into the second half, and it felt like we just got more of a foothold in the game.
Yeah, I think obviously the substitutions. I mean, Crescencio Somerville made a huge difference. Absolutely. I mean, Sharky references it in his comments there. I mean, he believes he should have started. I believe he should have started, but I think you're in agreement with this, Ben. But he came on, and I think he had a point to prove. He came on and he played like a man possessed. I mean, to be fair, another person I think is probably not getting the plaudits that he deserves for the whole. He actually played the whole match, and I've actually got on the YouTube channel. I've actually got a man of the match poll. So if you're not watching this on YouTube, get yourself across to the YouTube channel and get on the man of the match vote. Which at the minute I've got 4 candidates. They are Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Now, I think that Crescencio Somerville had a great impact on the match. However, I do think, in my opinion, I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka was the man of the match. I thought he was brilliant. And he was someone that I criticised a little bit, and you did as well, obviously, in terms of performances. And I think it was a justifiable observation. I don't think we were going subs up on him. The other contenders are Jared Bowen and Lucas Fabianski. So get yourself across to the poll. We've got 14 votes at the minute. Crescencio Somerville is winning it, and I suspect he probably will get it because he had the match turning influence. But I do think Wan-Bissaka's contribution does need to be recognised.
Yeah. I agree, Rob. And I think, would you want to talk about moving into the second half now?
Yeah, so second half, obviously, I would say that the substitutions had a positive impact, 100%. We certainly weren't getting outmatched, outgunned, outthought, outfought, outworked, everything like that, which we did in the first half, and some way, somehow managed to find ourselves at parity. So obviously we got the goal, and it was interesting because there was a little bit of an element of fortune. I mean, obviously, if you watch it again, Bowen's on the right. He he cuts inside. He's got the fullback to beat. He plays a ball across to Danny Ings, who by this stage had come on for Michail Antonio. There is absolutely no way that was a conscious assist. Absolutely no way. You cannot tell me that the goal scoring instincts of Danny Ings weren't to bury that. He just misconnected. He scuffed the shot badly, but out of that accident came a beautiful opportunity that Crescencio Somerville, he put the afterburners on. He flew after this ball that was trundling across the 6-yard box, slammed it past Andre Onana, 1-0 to the Cockney boys. Claret and blue, bubbles everywhere. We're 1-0 up. And yeah, you could sort of like, you sensed at that point that the game had obviously turned on the score sheet. We'd probably turned it just starting to turn in our favour just before that, I would suggest. And he was a key part of that return to to the fore, if you will.
Yeah. I think, Rob, actually going a little bit further back, it's actually a really good move for the goal. The goal is a good goal. Yeah, I think Man United give it away sort of in midfield, but then there's 3 one-touch passes there. I think it's Rodriguez, Souček, Wan-Bissaka. 3 lovely passes to Bowen. He cuts inside, like you say, Rob. It's clearly a shot, but and it's a case of Ings. If Ings tried that, like, bearing in mind Somerville is, if he fed it into him and they said, right, Ingsy, Somerville's behind you, lay it on a plate for him. If he tried it 100 times, he wouldn't be able to do what he done.
No.
On purpose, but obviously it was a pure fluke. But actually, Rob, it was still a good goal and a good finish with the outside of the boot. He's kind of just hammered it in.
Yeah.
And it was really good to see. Obviously, the top come off, and I feel, Rob, I mean, I'm not going to take credit for it, but I actually said Somerville was going to play and score, and we're going to win. I said 2-0, and 2 from Somerville. But mate, I've liked this lad for a long time. He's a goal threat. He's quick. He's direct, and we need him in the team. He's got to have played himself, especially with Kudus being out for a few games.
Yeah.
Somerville's going to be starting. He's got to be.
Yeah, and apparently, obviously, when he celebrated the goal, I don't know if you've seen the photographs. He went across and celebrated with Kudus.
Yeah, and I think he said he looks up to him a lot.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, Rob, you're looking at that form guide now, and it's not great, but it don't look too bad. Do you know what I mean? It's amazing what one win can do. We just need to start being a bit more consistent now. But like I say, Rob, I just think with every game, Lopetegui's been under the cosh, and rightly so. And with the team that he put out to start with, I thought, what the fuck are you doing, mate? Do you want to get sacked? But, he's learning every game. And I like to think he's starting to realise who he can rely on and who he can't.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, what was it? 6 minutes after we took the lead, Manchester United, they got an equaliser. It was flicked on by Joshua Zirkzee. Ball was played into the box, flicked on by Joshua Zirkzee. Casemiro, who's past his best, it has to be said, but he's 3 yards or so from goal. He couldn't miss. He didn't miss, and it was an equaliser. And with 9 minutes to go, I got to be honest, I sort of thought initially, well, that's that then. We've got to come away on as even sort of thing. But you know what? I had a feeling, even at that point, I had a feeling this ain't done yet. This really isn't done. And when the penalty decision came, I got to be honest with you, it was sort of, when it happened, it was like a half-hearted sort of appeal, just because why not sort of thing.
Yeah.
The play seemed to carry on. It seemed to me from where I was that with the amount of time that had gone on from that point, that, I guess they've looked at it and nothing's going to come of it, blah, blah, blah. And then there was a break in play. And then all of a sudden I realized up on the screens, it said they were checking it. And I was like, oh. And then, of course, at that point, all of a sudden, they must have said something in the referee's ear roll, and he went trotting over to the VAR screen. Now, this has always been a bit of a fundamental error, a fundamental flaw, I think, because where the VAR screen is at London Stadium, for those who don't know where the VAR is on London Stadium, it's basically more or less in front of where I'm sat, just slightly to the right. I'm up in the gods, obviously, but it's sort of on the west stand. If you can imagine, you've got the tunnel as you come out. It's sort of like to the left of that, sort of maybe sort of about 50 yards or so. It's probably only about sort of, I don't know, sort of 20, 30 feet from the touch line. So the referee is looking at the screen, but you can have players looking at the footage and chirping in with their opinions. And now I personally think that's fundamentally wrong. I think the referee should be allowed the opportunity to go and see that footage completely unhindered from anybody that's on the pitch and not have any of that bullshit going on behind him. I clearly saw from where I was sitting. De Ligt was looking over his shoulder. He's looking at the footage. You can see that he's sort of like he's shouting to the referee and giving his two penneth. Not that it was asked for, or it didn't make any difference. But I just think that fundamentally that is wrong. I think that the referee should be allowed to just make their decision without any pressure, without any external influences. But that being said, once he'd looked at the footage, he'd obviously decided. Now I've seen it latterly, and I'm guessing you have, Ben. And it's one of those where I've seen them given, I've seen them not given. I think it's a very subjective call. I don't think it was not studs up. It wasn't sort of an obvious stone wall penalty. Absolutely not. I'm not going to say that it was. If it was given down the other end, I think I'd feel quite aggrieved. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, people seem to think VAR is going to stop subjective grey area calls, marginal calls. It's not. All it's going to do is it's going to allow the referee an opportunity to re-look at a decision and maybe make a different decision. Maybe with where it comes into its own, VAR for me is where it comes into its own is the clangers that the on-field referee has missed. It allows them the opportunity to wind the clock back and zone in and have a look. But when it's like that, where it's like one referee could look at that and go, I think that's a penalty. Another referee could look at it and go, I don't think that that's a penalty. So I don't think that call yesterday was clear cut. You could have that situation happen 100 times over the course of this season. You'd get sort of like probably a 50-50 split on whether a penalty was awarded or not. So penalty was awarded.
Look, I think we'll all agree it's pretty soft.
Yeah.
It's pretty soft, but the fundamental is he does catch him. I think he definitely gets clipped. De Ligt doesn't get the ball. Whether or not whether or not Ings had control of the ball, it's not really the case. But look, fundamentally, the ref give it, and it wasn't the ref give it, having looked at it. So, and for me, obviously, last minute, Rob, it was our dad's birthday yesterday. I took the old man out for dinner, and I'm just finishing my dessert, and I can see we've got a penalty, and I'm just trying to reload my Twitter feed to see because I was thinking who's going to take the penalty because Paqueta usually takes them. He was off the pitch. I did think it would be Bowen, and I have to say, captain last minute. He didn't look like he had any nerves. He absolutely whipped it into that bottom corner. And it was a fantastic penalty.
It should also be mentioned, Ben, that between the point when the referee awarded the penalty and Bowen actually being able to execute that penalty, there was still quite a wait because Man United went absolutely berserk. They were ranting and raving at the referee and they were having all sorts of protestations and this, that, and the other. Jared Bowen's sitting there with the ball. He's just sort of like, and it's those moments that, puts a little bit, if you were sort of like maybe a player slightly different mindset, they can be the moment where the penalty's missed before it's even taken. Do you know what I mean? Whereas Jared Bowen, he was cool, calm, collected. He waited for all the hubbub to die down, all of that fuss to sort itself out, for the referee to regain an element of control. You lot, fuck off out of the box. This is a penalty. It's given. Piss off. This man now needs to take the penalty. Andre Onana onto your line and let's go. And Jared Bowen picks his spot, drills it. Again, you mentioned the the qualities that he has. You know, he's still in the early stages of captaincy, but I think that showed some great leadership qualities to just block out the noise, block out the white noise around him, put the ball down from 12 yards, bang, put it away. 92 minutes, there was 12 minutes that were put up of time added on. It was actually 14 minutes in the end that was played. But he must have known when he put that away that the chances were that that was going to be the critical goal.
Yeah, absolutely, Rob. And it just felt good that he's you know he's taking the captaincy on quite well with his performances, his mentality there, just to block it all out, whip it home. And I think he's slowly I think he's getting better. I think he's getting better. He's, even when he's not, he might not have his best game, but he still scored the winning penalty and had a key pass for the other goal. You know what I mean? He is playing well, I think. So all in all, you'd have to say very welcome 3 points. Some good performances, especially in the second half, and it was actually quite good to see Fabianski in there making some key saves, and it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out for the rest of the season.
Well, I think he's got the gloves for the next one, wouldn't you say? Against
Oh,
Forest,
100%.
he's got to.
Yeah, 100%. And some of the at 39 years old, some of the agility that he showed to get down and make some of them saves was very impressive, I must say.
Yeah, no, I think he's definitely the goalkeeper for the Forest game, and unless he drops any clangers between now and the Everton game, he'll probably be the Everton the goalkeeper against Everton as well. And I don't think that there's an awful lot between Fabianski and Areola. There's certain elements where one goalkeeper will be stronger than the other in this aspect. But unfortunately, as much as I like Areola, I think he's a good goalkeeper. I just think that at the minute he's getting beaten at his near stick a little bit too much for my liking. And if I've noticed it, you've noticed it, everybody in the crowd has noticed it, you can be assured that all of the analytics department of Premier League clubs up and down the country will also be aware of it, and they will be telling their team, go to his near post as a weakness there.
Yeah, but I think, like I say, all in all, it's a real positive result, and I think there's quite a few players that have played themselves definitely into the team next week.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think for me, Somerville absolutely should start next week. Souček should start next week. I'm not quite sure. I think that would probably mean Rodriguez has to come out, because I just don't think a midfield three of Alvarez, Souček and Rodriguez can possibly work. So I think that it's going to have to be Rodriguez for me that has to drop out against Forest, in my opinion. I don't think he had a bad game, but I don't think he really set the world on fire yesterday, Rodriguez.
That was the midfield three in the second half, though, wasn't it?
It was the midfield three in the second half, but as I say, I just think possibly against Forest it might get. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I'm not really too sure that sort of Man United's midfield is all that much to write home about, in all truth. So, but anyway, it is what it is. We got to the final whistle, 2-1 to the good. And obviously, less than 24 hours later, the Manchester United manager is jettisoned. Now, here's a question for you, Ben. And I know this is me sort of like asking you for an opinion. It's a hypothetical. Just suppose we lost that game 2-1. Do you think Lopetegui goes?
No, not as probably not as quick as that, Rob. But I think, look, no manager's safe. It's all about results and performances. No, I think if we'd have lost, and then I think you've always got 3 games. Bear in mind it's been a fairly poor start to the season. If we'd lost and then only picked up maybe a point out of Everton and Nottingham Forest, you could, the knives could be sharpened. But look, he's got a bit more time. Like I say, he's finding out who he can rely on, finding out who he can't, and you've got to think the penny's going to drop for the next game that some of these players that aren't performing, that he's hauled off, then we won't see them in the starting 11.
Who's your star player for each team, Ben? Not that you probably give a shit about Man United, but just humour me.
I've got to say Somerville. I've got to say Somerville for us. Changed the game, scored a goal, and played himself into contention. Definitely should be starting next week. I'll probably say Casemiro played quite well for Man United. I thought he got the goal. So, yeah, I mean, for me, Rob, they should have chopped Ten Hag in the summer. If they hadn't won the FA Cup, I think they definitely would. But that was just a one-off game that the players raised their game. And quite frankly, Ten Hag, I'm disappointed they've chopped him that soon because I just want to see. I would have liked to see their, their demise for a little bit longer, because you would imagine whoever comes in, there'll be a bit of a bounce. But I just, we're above Man United, and I want us to stay above them.
Absolutely. Do you think that it being a 2-1 win to us, do you think that that was a fair reflection on the game from what you witnessed?
Overall, yes. I think, like you say, Rob, we were very lucky to go in at half-time 0-0. But second half, I think Emerson had a big chance to score to make it 2. And, in terms of the XG, we actually had more than them. Our expected goals was 3, and I think theirs was 2.5. So I'm going to say yes.
Yeah. Colin saying there that it looks like Man United are looking to appoint Ruben Amorim, who's obviously the guy we was linked with in the summer before we went and got Lopetegui. So
who knows, mate?
See how that pans out.
I think Southgate will be an option for him.
Yeah.
But they've got a big rebuild to do. But I'm not here to talk about Man United really. But like I say, I just want us to stay above them, and I think they're just not a good side.
What do you think the carryover from this victory will be into the Nottingham Forest game, if there is indeed any carryover?
There's got to be. There's got to be a real positive carryover, Rob, in terms of, like you say, Somerville comes in, scores, Fabianski comes in, makes some saves, Souček comes back. We've got to be positive for the next game, that we can, when we go on the front foot, we can cause teams problems. So I'm Forest are on good form. We just need to get a bit tighter at the back, start the game more positively, and we can definitely cause Forest some problems, 100%.
Fair enough. Any final thoughts before we knock it on the head, bruv?
Just that, over the moon we won. Glad to put the final nail in the coffin for Ten Hag. I know that's quite harsh, but I'm just glad that we did. And, pleased for Lopetegui, because I want him to succeed, that he had the balls to put right the team that it should have started. He put it right, and it come up trump. So good, fair play to him in the end.
Absolutely. And we'll onwards and upwards to the Forest game, and hopefully it will be more of the same. Ben, thanks for joining us, my friend. It's always a pleasure.
Lovely.
Brilliant. Okay, guys, and thanks for joining us. As I always ask you to do, please don't forget before you depart to like, comment on, and share this stream to your socials. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new around here. Don't forget to hit the bell icon for alerts and new content. Remember, all these things that you can do are free of charge to you. They take a couple of seconds of your time. They help to grow the channel into something bigger than it is currently. And we thank you very much indeed for your support. We're going to disappear until the next time. Come on, you Irons. Don't forget to give your support to the Iron Supporting Food Banks charity. We'll see you next time.
Iron Supporting Food Banks collects food and cash donations for needy families in Newham Borough and beyond. Please consider making a donation via their Just Giving page, the link for which you will find in the description section of this stream. Come on, you Irons.
West Ham are massive, everywhere we go. West Ham are massive.